Hello and welcome to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And I'm your other host, Emilio Palafox. Welcome to the show, guys.
We're so stoked today because we have some super special guests who, one of them I'm actually working on a film with. We just finished wrapping up called Alien Country. We have pretty much an award-winning actor with us on the show. He grew up a child star pretty much, right? Would you say?
Ooh, star is a strong word these days.
Shining star.
He is a shining star, and he's still shining right now. We have the McKenzie Allred and his beautiful wife, McKenzie Allred, with us on the show today.
Yeah, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank
you. Thanks for having us.
Super intimidating, I know. It's like, this is a really big deal. So you have to be perfect on the show.
Yes.
I've got my lines down.
Yes, we got Corbin's massage chair here. And,
perfect.
Everything that he requested. So
we're ready to go. We're super stoked to have you guys on the show. I think especially, we are all kind of couples within the entertainment industry, which is a really fun topic to talk about and lots of fun things that maybe people are super interested to know. But as you guys know, this show, Relationship Renegades, is all about creating a world where healthy relationships are the new norm. And what we're really passionate about on this show is talking about how couples, how, relationship experts, how neuroscientists, how all these different people in walks of life have really found, and what they've found that have helped create a healthy, fully alive relationship. One of the things that we found is that we all create this space for each other where we feel safe, seen, heard, and loved. And those are kind of like the pillars that we're like, you know what?
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, if we can do that, it's a great foundation to start with, so that we can so that I can be fully myself, and by doing that, help our relationship and vice versa. And so I think that, it could be semantics, maybe you guys have a different word for that, or create safety. And, I think everyone does things differently, hence why we have this show and why we dissect what you guys do. But I think that's going to be a through line for a lot of our shows, is if we can at least achieve that, I think there's so much blossoming and growth and involvement that can happen with any type of relationship, whether it's a relationship with yourself, others, the world around us, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, but the relationships we have in the world. And so we and Rachel believe that, the quality of your life is based on the quality of your relationships. And so, that's some more information as to why we want to spread more of that message. Absolutely.
And Corbin, you're such an interesting character, not only in the movie we just played in, but also just in life. Both watching, your incredible performances in Saints and Soldiers, as well as Anywhere But Here with Natalie Portman and Susan Sarandon, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
As well as your first projects. As an actor, and especially we're talking about relationships, we'll dive right into it. First I want you to introduce your wife, because you guys sent us something that we're like, okay, how do you guys want us to introduce you on the show? And we're like, you know what, Corbin, you need to introduce your wife, because I think it says so much about your guys' relationship and how you view her, and it might help other men be like, man, I could maybe up how I present my own wife.
Well, thank you. I just think, and I think Emilio would probably agree, is I just feel like I hit the jackpot really with my wife. And we've been together, married for coming up on 16 years, together for probably 18. But I would say, so my wife, McKenzie, is probably the most intelligent, strong, powerful, kind, smoking hot mom, wife on the planet. She's a wife, a mother, a friend, a super athlete, and an adventurer who I couldn't imagine going through this life without her. And as far as myself, I think she took a big gamble on a fixer-upper project that she has to deal with every single day, and so far I think at least she's still willing to keep gambling.
Well, welcome to the show, McKenzie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quite the intro.
Right?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said...
Would you agree with that, McKenzie?
Yeah, would you agree with that intro?
It's very kind. But Corbin, one thing that I love about Corbin is that anyone that I meet that has met Corbin first, the first thing they say to me is, we've heard so much about you, so many nice things.
Yeah.
He always is so complimentary of me. So.
Which is huge, because we actually have something that we say to each other. It's from this program called Optimal Being, that there's these different kind of daily intentions or kind of affirmations that we read to each other, and one of those is basically committing to speak highly of you, of your partner, in both your thoughts, actions, and words, whether in your presence or not. And I think that's huge, right? Because there is always kind of this opportunity, and a lot of in our past relationships, of toxic relationships, I wasn't saying the best things about my partners, and and I wasn't owning up to that either, because if they asked me in real life, no, I wouldn't want them to know the things I said behind their back, and that's kind of hard to own, but it's true.
For sure.
But now, it's that thing alone. I think that the way that we talk about our partners when they're not around is super important. So if you're listening right now,
that's right.
That's a huge note to take away.
That's actually one of the points. We received so much good advice as we were entering into our relationship, and after we were engaged and decided to kind of leap into this life together. And that was one of the key pieces of advice that we got was to protect each other and each other's good name and reputation, and speak truth of each other, but the wonderful things, and to really just shout it to everybody that you know. And that's really, I think, what we've tried to do. I honestly don't know that I don't know that I've ever thought to say an unkind thing or to anyone about my wife, because I don't have anything unkind to say, but also I think when you do that, it says a lot about yourself, and it says a lot about your relationship and the strength of your relationship. And we want to lift each other. Yeah. And we do that whether we're in each other's presence or not.
Yeah, I love that. And what about for people listening to this that are like, gosh, but I am having such a hard time in my relationship right now. They're in an argument, or they don't see eye to eye, or they're having a really hard time. What's been the most helpful for you guys during those times? Because sometimes I think there's a difference for people listening in, talking to a trusted friend or a therapist or something, when there's a difference between venting and getting something out and talking crap about somebody, to people that don't need to hear it. What's been a through line, or what's been something that's been helpful for you guys, especially during those challenging times when you don't know, sometimes you're just frustrated and you want to be heard on your perspective?
I think it comes down to intent, and I think it comes down to what are you hoping to accomplish with the things that you're saying. I think you can. Everybody goes through hard times. Everybody is, in any relationship, especially where you're not. You're maybe not lining up. You're not communicating well, and you feel like you're kind of distant. You're not really dialed in with each other. And there's nothing wrong with saying, expressing your feelings with somebody, a close friend. Yeah. But first, I think the most important thing is, I hope you're also talking to your partner. I hope the things that you're saying that you're missing, that you're needing from them. Yeah. I hope you have the means by which to communicate that to them directly, because I think too often we take our problems from our relationship and we start to confide in all these outside people when maybe we need to be really focusing on communicating with each other. Yes. And so there's nothing wrong, I think, with saying those things, especially when we need help, but I think it's really important that we aren't saying those things to try to convince others to change their perspective to try to validate your agenda. Does that make sense? So it's trying to convince other people that they're at fault, that you have an agenda to try to steer them to maybe develop some animus or some hard feelings toward that person. When in reality, if it's all we're trying to do is share that, hey, I'm really struggling with this thing. I want this to work so bad. I love this person. There's so many great things. I just need some help. You're going to get two different bits of advice depending on what your intentions are with the way that conversation goes.
So huge.
I love that you said that. And I think we always have an opportunity to and I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper in that too, but it's like, we can choose to focus on like the negative or the positive. Like, I think sometimes us as humans, especially if like we're overwhelmed with work and stress and all this kind of stuff, like all the emotions kind of bubbling up, and people out there may maybe have a default to go negative or think negative or act negative or whatever, but it's like, what you focus on expands, right? So it's like, with gratitude, right? Like gratitude being such a great superpower to have, right? So no matter what's going on, it's like you can look at this side of the coin, or you can choose the other side of the coin. Like, but what are all the great stuff, and what are all the things you're grateful for? And like, obviously, getting into that state of mind, that state of consciousness, there's a lot more blossoming that can happen from the relationship. But I like that you started talking about other people, because I think in the relationship, renegades, again, it's not just about the intimate relationships we have, but professionally, a relationship to yourself, to others. So when you started talking about others, I think a lot of times we always talk about this when you're meeting other people, whether you're dating or whether you're in an intimate relationship. And I guess we can just speak for ourselves, but like, what we used to do is we used to create these avatars of what we think this other person was going to love. And that could be with a friendship, that could be with like a relationship. And then all of a sudden, because maybe it's fear of what, who you really are. Maybe you're uncomfortable with who you are. And it's like 3 months, 6 months, maybe 3 years, maybe 10 years down the line, you start to show your true colors, your full authentic self. And then you're like, then that person's like, who the heck is that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's breakups, there's some tension, there's divorces or what have you. And it's like, why the F do we do that?
Yeah.
And so I think like, in the perception world, like when you're talking to friends, like you were saying, and what that conversation is like, it's like, I guess what resonates or what lands when I kind of talk about like this avatar. Have you guys done that? Does that come up? Like whether it's in the beginning of a relationship, it kind of just a big kind of general question. But when I say that, what kind of land? How does that land for you guys?
Well, for us, I think we got lucky because we started our relationship as we just knew each other as friends. So there wasn't that pretense of who we were pretending to be or who we thought that other person thought we should be.
Yeah.
I love that.
Awesome.
And I'm like incapable of being insincere. Like I cannot.
she has an aversion to.
Like I cannot say something that I don't mean. Like I just can't.
That's such a gift, by the way, because one of my biggest things was I always had a hard time being fully honest with men, and I had to do a lot of work to uncover. And we actually talked about that on the last episode we did.
Yeah.
That it comes from like a childhood pattern I picked up of not really feeling comfortable being honest with my dad because I was afraid of judgments or getting in trouble. And so for any women out there or any people out there that have that gift of like being able to be fully transparent, like it's taken me years to get to that point. But now it's a superpower because I have so much pain attached to not being fully honest that I'm almost incapable of doing that. So I finally reached where you were just naturally.
I don't know if I reached anything, but it's because I for sure have my insecurities about who I am, but rather than say something I don't mean, I just would maybe not say anything at all.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah, she's the most truthful person ever, and I needed that. We started our relationship as friends, and I feel like for me, I dated a lot, and I had a really hard time to be truthful. And look, we're all products of our circumstance. We're all products of our experiences,
right?
And what we witnessed in relationships in our lives, whether it's our parents or siblings or people we know, whatever. And I had a hard time opening up and being really vulnerable to the women that I dated in my life.
Because I think a lot of men do.
I was very guarded, and I wasn't so much with friends. For some reason, I felt like I felt safer, and I felt like I could be myself around my true friends, the people and I was able to just be me, and I didn't have to pretend. And remember, I grew up in an industry where I was the product, and that's really hard because you start to self-evaluate, and you start to think of yourself and value yourself based on what other people think of you.
Right, because you started acting when you were like 12.
Yeah, I was very young. Yeah, I was 12 years old, and so
because you did The Teen Angel was the first one, right?
Well, I did. Robin Hood Men in Tights was one of the first films I did. Teen Angel came on a little later, and that was an ABC show I did. But yeah, you're bought and sold. I mean, in the film industry, you are. It's what you look like. It's what you act like. It's what you. And I had people. It was like I would get jobs or not get jobs. You're too good looking. You're not good looking enough. You're too tall. You're too small. You're too. And it was all these things.
All the things. I know that so well.
It was literally just hammering my sense of self-worth. And so, getting back to to the relationship question is, I met my wife, and because of God, I think the grace of God, we were both in other relationships. And what ended up happening is she fell into a very small group of friends that I loved and adored and beyond measure. And because of that, we got to know each other. There was no faking it. And we've all done it. Every relationship I've ever had, I put on a show for as long as I could hold it together and minimized all the things I figured that they'd hate about me and tried to maximize the things that I figured they'd love about me. I'd take on new things that that weren't even real because I thought maybe they'd like that more. And I'm an actor. I can fake it. And so I could be really whoever. And then, but I was really myself around my friends, and Ken's just came along at this time, I think, truly as a blessing, and we became such good friends, deep and dear friends. Although the very first time we met, I remember thinking, I'm like, oh man, I really like her. Like she's the smartest. But
you were in another relationship.
I was.
You both were.
I know we both
were. Which forced you guys to be friends first.
It was. We weren't allowed. It was forbidden. But you couldn't. You couldn't deny the chemistry, and you couldn't deny trying to fight the flirtation was a challenge. Right, but she was so beautiful. I remember seeing her and I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I got talking to her, and she had all these opinions and feelings about things that she had. We didn't agree on everything. And I remember talking to her, and she had an opinion about it. She disagreed with me, and I'm like, wait, whoa. And she had
nobody disagreed.
I know, so arrogant. But no, it was like because I dated so much, and I felt like people they would always try to not offend, and they weren't ever really themselves, just like I wasn't.
Right.
But we were, and so when that came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I like this. Like we don't. Like she's the smartest person I've ever talked to. I was so stimulated by her mentally and emotionally that I was just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't get enough of her. And then we just started hanging out all the time.
Right.
And so we built this thing that my walls were down, and I was vulnerable to her. And then it was literally like we were both single at the same time.
Mm-hmm. How perfect.
And it was like, all the fireworks went off, and we were like, we should hook up.
What I love about
that was
all
verbatim,
of this,
right?
That's the verbatim question.
I know.
Sadly, it's pretty close.
And let me just say, it was her. Like
she's the one who did that.
I was down, but it was Ken's even said, I think word for word, it was like, hey,
we're both on the rebound.
We went out, we hung out with some friends that night, and she was like, hey, we're both on the rebound. Like, shouldn't we?
Shouldn't we?
And I was kind of like, yes. If you're serious, if you're joking, then
testing me.
I'm like, what are you messing with me?
I love that. I love the through line though, right? Because ultimately, you guys naturally through friendship created a space where you both felt safe, seen, heard, and loved. That enabled this beautiful relationship where you could actually just be yourselves. And I just find it fascinating that human nature is to do that. It seems like there's a common theme where people, like we all said, like, I know I did it, Emilio did it, you did it, maybe you did it in your past as well, of like pretending to be someone that we're not, pretending to be the person that we think other people want us to be, which how do we even know that anyways? Because most of the time that it's all based on assumption, it's not true. And what's crazy is that like when we first started dating, it sounds like the same for you guys, all the things that we used to hide or suppress or kind of deny about ourselves in other relationships because we felt insecure about them, when we just were able to just be that way and show off all those things. Yeah. The other person was like, man, I love that about you.
And it's interesting, too, why we do that is such a self-protective thing, because how could it ever be good for that other person for us to not be ourselves?
Right.
For sure.
It could never be good. So if we really cared, if we really loved, genuinely cared for and loved and had affection and affinity for that other person, we would be ourselves, understanding that being something else would never be good for them.
Yeah.
And so if we were ourselves out of the gates, because it's that difference between thinking of them or thinking of us, because really it's self-serving for us to be like, I'm going to pretend to hang on to this thing because I don't want to lose this thing I want so bad, this person, this relationship, whatever it is. So I'm going to be something else that's really kind of sabotaging the other person.
Right, yeah.
To save ourselves. But really, if we could flip that and be ourselves out of the gates, and then I think we will naturally fall in line with those people that are going to love us for who we are.
Yeah.
And give us all of themselves so that we can give all of ourselves. And I mean, the first time Ken's and I, it was funny. We were such good friends. I remember the first time we kissed, we like literally talked about it, and we were like, hey, we're just getting this out of our system. We're just going to do this once, and then we're just getting out of our system. Like we're just, and clearly it wasn't out of our system.
And they're still 16 years later getting out of their system.
There's 4 kids later, and something went right.
Well, I love that you shared that. And again, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We are talking about communication. We're talking about relationships, and especially, okay, so let's get into, I want to dive into real quick before we get into rapid fire. I want to get into in the entertainment industry. So you guys are been married for 16 years, 4 kids in the entertainment industry, and not only entertainment industry, but also the medical industry, which I find this so fascinating. I've never met another actor who is also a medic. So freaking cool that you did that, especially growing up in a family of doctors. I was like, what? This is so awesome.
So we got writer, producer, actor, paramedic,
PA.
Yeah. I mean, jack of all trades, just like
musician,
your wife when you're a musician as
what
well.
Don't you do?
So, being a mother or father is already a full-time job, and then you add all these other things. And I think it's a great, maybe a conversation. I don't know where you're going with this, babe, but I think it's just important to note, whether you're doing the 1 full-time job or 5 full-time jobs or everything, just there can be a lot of stress and overwhelm that may come from all of that. 1 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, 4 of those. I would like to know whether it's either before or after your question, babe, just, how you guys manage that. Because I think right now there's, I think obviously in any relationship, there can be an overwhelm of stress. And it's always great to hear from other couples of what are the tricks, tools, resource, things that they access when some of those things happen to kind of, one of the things that I love to talk about, this quote of life, I feel like life's like the ocean. There's always going to be waves. The good news is that you can learn how to surf.
I like that.
And, it's like, well, what is that surfboard for you guys? Okay, look, there's another wave coming, another life event, another whatever. And we're not perfect, so maybe there's an unconscious kind of thing that happens, but whether it's like, okay, let me back up, let me reach for that tool or whatever. And, I think every couple does things differently. So whether this is aligned with your question, love,
let's jump into it. I love
that,
it. Yeah.
I think it's just important to know, because I think that's just a common thing. We're always going to get stressed out and stuff. And how do we go about that? How do we ride these inevitable waves of life?
Especially if you're what sounds like to be a pretty high performer,
with a lot of,
right?
You guys have a lot going on.
Corbin's always busy. He doesn't take a break. If he has days off, he's got, he's busy doing something. So, and I've just,
and you're a mom of 4 kids. That's a full-time job in its own.
Not me.
He likes to stay busy. Yeah. And that's just something I've come to find endearing about him. And, gosh,
I think what you're saying, I think one of the things I want to just say is that sometimes it's exhausting being who we are. And Ken's is, we have 4 kids. One of our kids has some special needs. And we have a complicated life. Just at baseline, and remove all those other things that we try to do. Just to get through our day to day, it's complicated. And I think anybody looking in from the outside would say, "Wow, that's a lot.
Oh, it's really hard.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do it." And they'll say things like, Like, it's because you can handle it. It's because,
Right.
you've have, these challenges that come your way is because you're ready for it. And our response is always like, well, what alternative do we have? Like, we gotta,
just gonna lay in bed.
Yeah, like we've gotta go. And I think as far as I like that analogy of the surfboard and riding the waves is things come, and my wife is, I think, a lot better at rolling with things, and I'm trying to be more like her with.
I'm maybe better at rolling with things that are out of my control.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Whereas Corbin, he just wants to be able to control situations, and that's something he's had to let go of for sure.
Yeah, it's as we've had, as we become more familiar, and everybody is going to go through this, in life. If we have a meaningful relationship, it is inevitably going to break our heart in some way. There is no way to love and have a meaningful relationship that's not going to. Something will happen. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just end of life things, we will leave before a loved one. A loved one will leave before we want them to, and there'll be a separation for a time, or health, or life. I mean, people will go through tragedy, and so whether we can either live our lives without these meaningful relationships and without loving people, and then we're safe. Or we're going to invest in these relationships, and at some point we're going to have our hearts broken. And so,
safe or lonely, right?
Yeah, like that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Safe and lonely. Yeah. It's like
safe and lonely, or like all in and like vulnerable.
Yes. So true.
But I think that also creates the meaning of life and the meaning of relationships. It's this whole idea of like the sweet just isn't as sweet without the sour.
Absolutely.
It can't be. You're right.
And so I think if everybody lived a perfect, beautiful, happy, amazing life, joyful, like. It would kind of like, I think like any person who like was on that trajectory of everything was perfect all the time, like, I don't know if that person would be kind of a good human being. I don't know. Like, or maybe that's not the right word, but I mean, like, I think the ebbs and flows, these waves of life really create like a beautiful human and a beautiful relationship because you care so much more. You have so much capacity to love more and all these things.
I totally agree. And I think Ken's and I are kind of standing on the surfboard, and I am like, don't have the best balance. And I feel like Ken's has really good balance. And sometimes I'm like, you do. I'm like, she's shaking her head, and I'm like, no. I'm like, and there's times where I'm just like, whoa, I'm falling off. And sometimes I'm off, and she's trying to like pull me back on, and and it's true. I look at people who find contentment in life, and that's something I don't know. I don't know what that feels like, and I don't mean in relationship. I am in bliss in my relationship with my family and things like that. But contentment, as far as like my goals, I feel like I'm always going, and I don't know if that's. It's not good or bad. It's just, but sometimes it's really, really exhausting.
Yeah.
And so when you ask about all these things I do, sometimes part of me wants to nod and be proud and be like, I've tried to accomplish a lot of things. I've gone to school. I've done this stuff. And then the other side of me is like, man, I want to take a break. Like I'm tired. But yet I still am constantly striving to accomplish. Like goals and accomplishing goals is just something that's who I am, and we just complement each other well because Ken sees. I mean, she can watch from the outside and see when I'm struggling and where I'm struggling, and she just gives these, she just lifts me up. And sometimes, like even this film, like it was going to be a challenge with my schedule to do this film with you. And it was going to be a challenge with my schedule and wasn't going to be able, and Ken's was like, you need to do this film. Like you should do this film. And because she knows how much I love it. And so she's like, you need to balance and start using that artistic side of your brain just so that you're healthy. And so she recognized that, and even for her own sacrifice, I mean, she was willing to let me go. I mean, she was basically a single mom the last month because I'm either in the ER working as a PA or I'm on set and away. But yet she was still
having another wife.
Yes, exactly. Having this other wife.
Talk about that.
I know.
Right? Literally, like I play Corbin's wife in the movie, which is hilarious. That we're talking about relationships with both of our actual significant others, which is so cool. And amidst what I love, kind of answering that. It sounded like, what do you guys do in the midst of stress? It was like you support each other.
That's it.
You know, like
it's a long way of saying.
A long way of saying,
I would add on that surfboard that where he says I balance him out. I think it is where like we try to to be cohesive and like ride it together.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm off balance, sometimes he's off balance, but we've just decided that we're just not going to be off balance on the same day.
That's very true.
So
you can't do it at the same time. Yeah. That's something we've said before. Like if one of us is falling apart, the other one needs to be commit to fall apart the next day.
For sure.
Because that day we're going to need each other. And we also will call it out, if we see, there's days Ken's and I, if we're just missing each other, we're not communicating well, or, there's tension, and sometimes tension comes out of nowhere. You're not really sure why.
Sure. Right.
You're feeling underappreciated. You're feeling, whatever it is, and it comes. We usually just call it out. We just say we'll just be like, babe, I don't feel like we're not connecting. Like we need to stop. We need to pause and be like, hey, where can we feel closer?
Yes, I love that.
And we need to go on a date. We need to get away.
Yep.
Even if it's just like going to the grocery store together and hold hands.
Right.
It's like whatever it is, we have to refocus. But
I love that you said that you call it out, right? Because I think one of the most dangerous things you could ever do in a relationship is not talk about it.
And both people are feeling it. It's just like
it's relationship suicide.
It is. I love that you said that. Like how to avoid relationship suicide here on Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio is what we're talking about right now, which I think is a brilliant topic, right? Like because I think so many times if we don't prepare for or plan for what could happen, then we miss out because it just happens and all of a sudden we're caught off guard. So I think the awareness of prevention or proactive plan to not hit relationship suicide and here's some of the things you can do if you're listening, call it out, right? Support each other in the times of stress as we were talking about. What's a powerful way because again, these pillars of feeling safe, seen, heard, and loved. So if you guys are both feeling tension, feeling disconnected, or in a frustrating situation, you're at the hospital all the time, or you're on set all the time, or the kids are freaking out, what's a way that you guys, or is there some sort of language or habit or pattern you guys have found helpful so that it doesn't, because I think a lot of people feel scared to speak vulnerable, to be because I think there's a fear of I don't want to come across demanding or naggy or bitchy or whatever the right word is.
Or even the other flip, I'm not enough, or I don't have enough, or there's the whole ego center. If I'm going to be vulnerable, maybe she's going to, both sides of the coin.
Yeah. So what is it for you guys? Is there language or communication tools that have helped you be able to share vulnerable, hard things?
Go ahead. I can tell you have something to say.
No, I think there's, I think remembering. So here's one thing that I think helps us is we actually try to listen. So often when someone else is communicating with us, we are thinking of our argument. We are thinking of why they're wrong, and we're sabotaging. Or you're
thinking of how you can fix.
Right.
Whatever it is that they're complaining about.
Yeah, huge.
Right. And we're thinking about how we're validated in the way we feel, and they're the ones that need to change, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with the world is that everybody's like, we need change. I'm not changing, but everything around me needs to change. Right. That's and that's really the problem. And so for us, I think we're not afraid to talk. Do we have disagreements where we go, we're passing each other awkwardly in the house, and then do we have those times? Sure. But we make sure they don't last.
Yeah.
We never remember, what it was that we were having issues with.
Yeah, we don't hold grudges.
We do not store up old ammo. It will kill your relationship. But I think the big thing is when we're talking to each other, we're trying to listen and see the perspective of if this is the person that I respect so much and love so much, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be better for listening, much better for listening than I am for talking. If you and I have a conversation, or we have a conversation for 30 minutes and I talk the whole time, or I'm thinking of what I want to say the whole time, I'm just as dumb at the end of those 30 minutes as I was when I started, right?
I love that.
But if I just shut up and listen to the smartest person I know, the person I love more than anything, talk to me, I'm going to be better for it, and I'm going to understand her perspective, and I'm going to change, and we're going to at the end of it, we're going to be just fine. And then we make out, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
Perfect, yeah.
I will say, that is, and I mean, I don't want to like gloss over that, but like intimacy it is very hard to feel disconnected when you are trying your very best to express love physically with each other as often as you can.
100%.
That's true.
That is so huge, and I think it's something that we talk about often. We just hope that more people feel comfortable wherever you are in the world, right? Whether it's like PDA or whatever. Like we love seeing love. Like you see people loving on each other, I'm like, yes, it makes you so happy, and then it inspires more love. And so I think, couples out there listening, or people out there listening, whether it's giving a really great friend like a super long hug, or making out with your partner, or like just showing love to people more, I think love only inspires more love. So to never be afraid of that,
And I think, so many gold nuggets. If you guys are just tuning in here, we're with Corbin and McKenzie on Fun for Life Radio here on Relationship Renegades. And before we maybe go to rapid fire questions for these lovely two, I wanted to kind of just go back real quick just to say a comment. And again, so many gold nuggets that I think need to continue to be reiterated. But one thing that I found awesome that you said, McKenzie, was how even in this most stressful of times, you have a full-time job of the 4 kids and one with special needs, which we'll go into later on, because I think what you guys have done with your family, including that, has been so beautiful that I think needs to be talked about. But that Corbin's passion and fulfillment with acting and that kind of part of him, and no matter what's going on, like that about him, and you're like, you know what, you need to go because this is going to fill your cup. And you know that, and it's like, I think so many, at least, and I can only speak personally from a lot of relationships that I've talked to for over 20 years, and of course in our personal relationships, in our past toxic relationships that we've talked about where some of my past relationships have not allowed me to do things that I love, and it caused resentment, and it caused all these things, and it's like, it's almost like, no, you don't do this, and again, focusing on the negative. Oh, you don't do this. You got to be here with the family. You got to this and that. And it's just this constant kind of negative spiral. But if you love your person, and why not always want that person to feel happy and to feel kind of filled up, and because if their cup is full, then they're going to be a better person, and vice versa. So I love that you were able, that you had that presence and capacity, and I think matureness and consciousness to be able to, and maybe it's not always perfect, or maybe it is, but the fact that you are doing that, I think is profound. And I think that when I think about the masses, there's not a lot of that happening. So kudos to you for doing that. And, I'm sure it's vice versa as well.
I think it's so easy to become, to think about yourself in a relationship. And when you start doing that, you are going to sabotage your relationship. But I love that Corbin has other things that he likes to do. That's one of the things that I love about him. And it's easy to send him off to do like this movie job and stuff and have him be married to another beautiful actress who isn't me, but part of that...
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
I really want to talk about that.
We're going to have that conversation.
I don't feel resentment. I don't feel any negative feelings about it. And part of that is because of how open and vulnerable he is with me and communicates with me. Like, I feel very secure sending him away. And we have talked to other couples who work in the industry who have had a really hard time with their spouse pretending to,
for sure.
Well, it was something that we definitely want to talk about, because I'm new to that world, and we've been kind of exploring that. So I think a lot of listeners may be interested into like, okay, when your significant other is actively, consciously, this is part of their job to like get an intimate, pretending or acting to be an intimate relationship sometimes, and maybe what goes on in the mind and all this kind of stuff. And so I think something that may be a good conversation to have after rapid fire questions coming up here on Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You are listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And this is your other host, Emilio Palafox.
And we are with the beautiful, incredible, and talented Mr. Corbin Allred and his beautiful wife, McKenzie Allred. We are jumping into rapid fire questions. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, babe.
Ready.
Kick us off.
Oh, I thought you were going to kick us off. Okay. Well, that is a shock, but here we go.
And I got to answer
if you
fast.
could go,
Right, here we go.
If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why, Corbin?
I would go... I would go to the UK. I would go to the UK, and I would go to all the castles.
Ooh.
And why? Because I did like my family history. For some reason, I have this like I'm fascinated by the UK, by British history, and like so any like British TV, British everything. It's like I just feel this pull towards it.
I love it.
And we did like my family history, and in all my known family history, I literally have I think one known person that originates outside the UK. That is like the entire. Yes. I would go there.
UK.
I would hit all the castles, and I would fly fish all the creeks and streams.
Yeah,
with my wife.
Cool.
Very
There
cool.
you go.
And it's good to just kind of get some insight from some of these rapid fires. So same question to
same
you,
question to
Mackenzie.
you.
Oh.
You can't delay.
If you could
Fast.
go anywhere.
You had time to think while he was going.
Yeah, anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Right now with the snow outside, I really have wanted to always go to Tahiti.
Oh, nice one.
Okay.
Tropical.
Yeah? Any specific reason? Or just because you want to get
warm.
away? Because it's warm and beautiful.
Because I'd wear a
Warm and
swimsuit there.
beautiful. Yeah.
Because you want to see your husband.
That's right.
Yeah.
In a swimsuit.
That's it.
Now, would you just relax there, or would you do some like active things, or what kind
For
of
sure,
person
some
are you?
adventuring. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some
Not
adventuring as
adventure.
well.
Yeah.
We always adventure.
Yep.
I love
Right
it.
on.
Good one. I'd go with you.
Okay.
That's funny.
This is a pretty fun question. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, question 2. Here we go. Describe the perfect kiss in 3 words.
With my wife.
Great.
Oh, God.
Oh, good one.
Wow, that was great. Okay, are you going to
Yeah, I
top
don't know
that?
what I would
don't know
say.
how you top that one.
You say 3 words.
Let's see.
It's got to be fast.
Shaved.
Yes. Okay, one.
As I'm sitting here with this big mustache
I
and beard.
know.
That's
Soft,
so great.
Sweet.
Shaved, soft, and sweet.
All right.
Okay, I love it.
Great,
that was
great,
good.
great.
Super fun. All right, babe, you go.
Okay, what is your biggest addiction? Could be good, could be bad, could be in the past, could be recent. Any of those, whatever comes to mind. What is your biggest addiction?
Me?
Yeah, Ken's first.
I know yours.
I would say probably exercise or running. Yeah.
That's probably mine too. It's definitely mine.
Yeah, her and her mom all the time. They got to be right when they wake up.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I gotta move. I gotta move, or else I'm
Yeah.
not a good human.
Yep, exactly.
That's pretty much it.
Right.
All right. What about you, Corbin?
Biggest addiction, I would say the outdoors. I mean, I know that's kind of a cliche answer, but the outdoors is really like I have to be outside doing something adventurous outside.
Yeah, I love that.
And I get headaches when I don't have caffeine. Go on.
Nice.
Little side note, no big deal. Okay, awesome. All right, so
Wait, that's the same question to her, right? Or did she already go?
she did it.
she did.
She
Yeah.
did. Okay,
Yep.
so my turn, babe?
Yep.
All right, here we go. This one I thought was interesting when I read this. So you went last time, Kenzie, so we'll go with Corbin on the first.
Yep.
Man, these-
Corbin, this was interesting to me. What is the one thing you own you wish you didn't?
Ooh, that's a great question.
What is the one thing you own you wish you didn't? Because sometimes I love
fast,
the things you own. Sometimes,
Yes.
yeah, I'll say that after.
You could do it. You could do it. You could do it.
4,
3,
2. I have excessive.
He doesn't want to say it. He doesn't want to say it.
Probably, gosh, babe. I really I cherish the things that I've worked
Corbin is a
hard to
hobbyist,
own.
so he's-
So
yeah,
it's
he
super,
has
super
to-
hard. What
Yeah.
do I own that I wish I didn't? You know what?
Are you a secret hoarder? Is that real?
No, I'm not a hoarder. I just have. I'm sabotaging
no,
this
it's okay.
rapid question
No, it's okay.
because here's the I passionately like. I go through my stuff and I'm like, I need all this. Like, and it's not because I think there's some excess, but I love. Here's the thing. I love my hobbies,
Yeah.
but I also love to be able to take people to do my hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do I have all my stuff, but I can take you guys, if you want to leave right now naked, I can take you camping for a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
With the stuff that I have, right?
Just in the car.
So
Just
total
in the
different.
car,
Yes.
or like, okay,
Well,
ready-
just all the time. So, but I will say I do have 2 trampolines, and I wish I didn't own one because there's one that's in the ground,
Okay.
and it's surrounded by rocks, by a wall, and 2 of my kids are gymnasts,
Yeah.
and and I work in the ER.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that trampoline to
Yeah.
me is something. As I watch, I just go, it's a matter of time. It's not if, it's when and how bad.
Yeah.
And so I wish I didn't have that other trampoline.
That's
Okay.
great. I like
Right.
that.
All right,
That was
all
great.
right.
for my kids' safety.
Yes.
Now, were you just buying time for kids?
Yeah,
Or were you just
No, I
Yeah.
seriously, that was a
That's a hard
struggle.
question.
That was an interesting
That was
one. I was
good.
like,
A struggle.
Yeah.
I would love the listeners to think about that. Like, if you had to answer that rapid fire question, what would it be? Like, if there's one thing that you had, what is the thing that you wish you could let go of? You know, like, that's pretty cool.
And what comes to me too, real quick, is just like, because I feel like, I think this was in Fight Club, like the things you own end up owning you,
Yeah.
kind of
yeah.
thing. So I feel like there could be a lot of stuff that accumulate, and it's just like they're
Owning
just
you.
owned by that, and they're not necessarily liberated or free in that sense. Maybe someone thinks about it differently, but that's what came up for me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, totally interesting.
It's funny
yeah.
because there's something about the simplicity. You hear part of me wants to live in a tiny cabin in Alaska and
I tell her that all the
Same with
time.
own
him.
10 things.
Same with
Yeah.
him, yeah.
In fact, I tried, the 100-thing challenge. You've heard of that? Have you ever heard of that? Where I
don't know.
I don't know all the details around it, but it's basically the concept is that you own, you go through
100
everything
things.
you own
Yeah.
and you own 100 things. That's it. You are capped at 100 things.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that.
how would I do this? And I'm like, does camping stuff count as one?
No.
You know what I mean? Because that's not the case.
Hey, it's our life. We'll say yes. I'm just kidding.
So it's I am very impressed by people who can live simply, and I
Minimalistic,
wish I could live more simply than I do.
Yeah.
And it's this double-edged sword of
I feel
things
that.
I love to do that require some things, and then that simple life where. Like that running show that we watched on Disney about those guys that were trying to break the 4-minute
Breaking 2.
the 4 hour, or the 2 hour mile.
Yeah.
And they lived so simply. And I just thought, God, these guys are
Got it
idolizing.
figured out in a lot of ways by living simply.
All right, well,
This is-
Mackenzie,
well, this
you're
is-
not
oh,
getting
sorry.
rid of
This is no, these are rapid fire questions with
rapid fire
slow
questions.
Killing.
Slow
I'm so sorry.
answers.
We'll get back to rapid.
Sorry. But I love this.
Mackenzie,
We'll bring
go.
it back.
Me, what do I own?
that you wish you could get rid of.
Get rid of. My smartphone.
Oh! That was the answer.
Bing.
That was the
Ding,
answer.
ding, ding,
That's a good
winner.
one.
That's a great one. I think a
You win.
majority of people would agree with you of like, we love it and we hate it.
Yes.
Like, it's the best and the worst. And, you know, it does so many incredible tools for us, but it also just like disconnects us so much from the present moment sometimes.
Babe, I'm
Yeah.
so with you. That was the right answer.
That was a great one. So we
that
have
was
one
really
more
great.
question,
We
then we're
have
going to get
one
back.
more question.
We'll do it rapid this
And
time.
this-
We'll commit to it.
Okay, I really like this one actually. Where would you go if you were invisible? Ready, go. Mackenzie first. You have to go.
Ooh,
Where would you go if you're invisible?
dang.
Anywhere in the world you could go. Past,
Go.
present, future. Fast.
Go.
I'm not
I would go to the. I would go back to the time of the Savior of Christ. I'm a Christian, and I would go back. Invisible or not, but invisible would be awesome because I feel like I could witness all of it.
Everything, yeah.
But not influence it.
Yeah.
If I was there and you could see me, I'd be influencing it. So I would go back.
Like, don't do it.
Yeah, I would be influencing it. But if I could go and witness it, the good and the bad, I would.
Yeah.
Not that it would make my faith any stronger, because I don't think seeing with my eyes is something that makes my faith stronger. I think we experience things in our hearts those are the realest things. But that's what I would do.
That's
where I
pretty
would go.
cool answer. I love that.
Great
What about
answer.
you?
You know what? I think I would go to the ER one night when Corbin was working.
Yes. I love that.
I hear the stories, but
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
pretty cool.
want to really see it. I want to see it.
I like that. Those are great answers, you guys. I love that. All right, well, that concludes our rapid fire segment at Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we're going to get raw, real, and deep around relationships and communication, especially in the entertainment industry.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachel Brooke Smith.
And this is Emilio Palafox.
And we are here with our special guest, Corbin and his wife, McKenzie Allred. We're having some fascinating conversations about relationships, communication, especially centered around the entertainment industry. And if you're just tuning in now, Corbin and I actually just finished filming a movie called Alien Country, where I actually play his wife in the movie. And we are sitting here with both of our significant others.
Yes.
So it leads to some pretty fun conversations. Okay, so in the entertainment industry, when you have roles where you have to have a wife or a girlfriend or intimate scenes with other women, what's been something that has helped you guys handle that? Because that's a topic, that I think we've had our things in the past about. I've had relationships end because of that.
Sure.
I know whether it's friends, my own relationships, a lot of people struggle with that. I think even if you're listening, you're not in the entertainment industry, it's a real question that comes up of like, man, I couldn't do that, or I could do that. What is it for you guys?
Corbin just doesn't keep anything from me. So I think that's part of it, is that he's just very open, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. And then when, say, has a scene where he's, kissing somebody, or he's had to kiss the actress, then, he talks about it, and it's just not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot you, though, babe. I think...
Is it?
I think so. I personally think it takes an incredibly strong partner to be in a relationship with somebody that is put into those circumstances in their work. I think it takes someone who's very confident and who, but also I think it's incumbent upon both partners, but specifically the one that's in the entertainment industry, in my opinion, that may have to be put in those circumstances. We were with this film. To make sure that their partner knows that at the end of the day, they have you wrapped around their finger. At the end of the day, they're the ones that you're going home to. At the end of the day, and when you're honest and open and not evasive with what's going on.
Don't make it weird.
Yeah, just don't make it weird. Don't make it weird, and it's not weird. It really is. If you're and it's important for people to know that I don't. And I have kids now. So, for example, in fact, we were on set. I thought this was funny. We were on set and we were doing some photos, right? Some photos for the film.
Yeah.
And we were acting like a married couple. My arm's around you and stuff. And we're standing there. Well, my daughter's on set.
Right.
Skylar was there.
Yeah.
And Skylar's like, Dad,
what's mom gonna think?
You're only allowed to do that with mom. and so it's it's important that first we're real transparent.
Yeah.
But also that you build a really good trust where that this is. I don't always get to play Corbin Allred. I never play Corbin Allred.
Right. Yeah.
I'm playing someone else, and with that comes all the other things that someone else could do. I could be a bad guy.
Yep.
I could do things that that I think are vile. My character could be the worst of the worst.
Right.
It's not me.
Yeah.
What's me is when I'm home with my wife and my kids. That's me, and everything else I'm pretending for the sake of telling a story.
Yeah.
And it's funny though. I feel like there's a difference between theater and film.
Yeah.
To some degree. People who do theater a lot of times are having to do kissing scenes and things like that twice
every
a day.
Night. Yeah.
But there's something like more pretend about theater, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Where film, it's so close, the camera's so close to you that it seems much more intimate than it really is.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that can be a little off-putting at times too. So, but I think in relationships, as long as the partners are communicating really well, and I think you can still be successful and it not be a thing.
Yeah.
Quote,
I think
unquote.
something that is really powerful is deciding just on a relationship standpoint in general, like everybody has different like red flags, make or break. So like if you
Boundaries.
know that you're not going to be okay with that ahead of time, don't date an actor. You know what I mean? Because like you're signing up for something, and I think was pretty raw and real with him at the beginning of our relationship of like, hey, I'm an actress, this is something I'm going to have to do. And this is something that is really messed up.
It was more like, I love making out with men. And so,
free pass. When the camera's rolling.
You're not cool with that? Then
when the camera's rolling, it's a free pass.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's true though, because like it really, it created some massive drama in past relationships, and it probably was a big reason why there's a lot of reasons why my past relationships didn't work, thank goodness. But with us, like I had to do a scene, I was shooting nights, and I had intimate scenes overnight with in the films that I had done. And so I would like be snuggling him and say goodnight to him, and then have to go shoot all night long, him knowing that I'm having to go
cuddle up with
another guy.
Yeah, go and have sex.
Have a sex scene with someone else. And so like, and we had some real raw, real difficult conversations around it. But
some beautiful communication around it. I think this, so, me and Rachel have been dating for about 2.5 years now, and we feel like we've had like 10,000 lives together, and that's a whole nother story. If you want to hear about our story, it's on our first episode.
Yeah.
But I do remember that night, and I think what's really cool is that if Rachel and I were, if we met even like 6 months to a year before we met, I wouldn't have been ready for this type of relationship. And we've talked about that, both of us. And when it comes to this particular conversation, I wouldn't have been ready or mature or grounded or conscious or all these things, confident to be able to handle those types of situations. Because we've both been kind of self-development junkies since we were 6th grade, kind of for our own reasons. But, really in the past few years, a lot of like looking to man and woman in the mirror, and a lot of deep inner work, not only for ourselves, our relationships and all that good stuff, but in doing that, it really, I guess, gave me a great mindset, and a lot of principles that I live by and values that enabled me to kind of communicate, be vulnerable with, and to ride that inevitable wave that came in. We were talking about surfboards and waves that are, and it wasn't like the perfect easy conversation. It was just like that, and so much so because I've had so many women lie to me. I had so many women cheat on me before. I've had so many women like just so many toxic stuff around this, to where this exact scene, for instance,
it was like the perfect setup.
It was the perfect setup for exactly what had happened like multiple times in my past. Of this woman in my past used to, love to party, and so did I back then, like clubs and bars all the time. And she had this Corvette, and she would love to go show it off. At the time, she had a lot of insecurities and needed a lot of attention. And so she would go and attract that in a lot of different ways. And she would, if I had to go study for something or work or whatever, she'd go out by herself and go to the bars by herself and mingle and get drunk and come home at like 3 a.m, smelling like god awful and like wanting to like snuggle and all this kind of stuff. And I soon found out later that like she was cheating me during those times, right? Like through the grapevine, through finding, all these things. So waking up in the middle of the night, whether it's at 3 or 4 a.m, and feeling like she did, later on knowing that she did, that was ingrained in me. Like, oh, that happened, And so she would come back at like 5 a.m, replay. But she was and she wasn't obviously having sex with the guy. But it was like my ego-centered self is like flipping out, creating these stories, right? And we talk about like we can get into this ego-centered, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough, or maybe I'm better than. We're always in our heads creating stories of either the past, which is really depression, or the future, which is anxiety, but never in the present moment. And so with my own tools and stuff, I had to kind of really just at the forefront, like we're talking about, be vulnerable, saying, hey, babe, this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. This is what's happened to me in the past. My ego self is creating the story of X, Y, Z. And whatever. And, of course, she was so... But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, by doing that, it enabled us to just have those hard conversations. Me doing that, you loved that I was doing that. Then the way you responded, I loved that she responded that way. And then all of a sudden, it was this beautiful cycle that not only healed the past part of myself, but enabled us to have more of a fun, connected, fully alive relationship, which is what this show's all about.
But then you met me and you were super threatened.
And and so
let's have to go all through it all over again.
I know. This is why we wanted you on the show. I have some things I need to confront with you.
Hey, I'm ready. You say when. No, I think you make a big. I think because we've seen the same thing. I have very close friends, and it's a challenge. And I've thought about this. I've thought if roles were reversed, it would be hard. I would have to go through what Ken's already has gone through, but I think part of it is just this. In our relationship, there's been this really from the very beginning, as we've kind of navigated. There was one point in our relationship where we actually broke up for a couple months.
Yeah. Pre-marriage or after?
Pre-marriage.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And pre-marriage, yeah. No, since we've been married, it's been but no,
like a year into dating.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a total curveball.
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring that up is because the way that she handled this breakup, I was scared. I mean, I panicked because I'm like, I feel for this woman something I've never felt before. Mm-hmm. I had said I love you to a number of women before that and realized I'd lied to them because of what I felt for this person, for my wife, and I panicked. Yeah. And in the moment she was like, he's ready to talk to me about taking it to the next step, I broke up with her. I mean, it was literally like pulled the carpet, the rug right out from underneath her. And the way
you broke up with her via just fear. You were just terrified.
Terrified. Because
this
it was like
good stuff, guys.
Because
listen in.
I was terrified, and it came down to, was I ready? Two things. I had never felt what I felt.
Yeah.
I mean, I was hopelessly in love with this woman. Like so vulnerable that it was like the fear of allowing her that much access to me and to my heart was like, I'm like, I can't let anybody have that. Like that's like, I have to protect that. Like I have to walk away from this. And so it was this thing where we broke up, and in the moment we were both just so devastated. In the moment we were doing it, it felt so wrong. Like I should have known, but I'm a man, and so I'm an idiot. But I should have known, but we broke up, and I literally just pulled the rug out from under her. And in that day, she showed this level of maturity that I've never, like she just said to me, she said, Corbin, if this is just something you need to do, like if you're just going through something and you need to work it out with yourself, I will wait. She said, I will be patient because I love you, basically. But she said, but if you are telling me to move on, I don't want you to be under any illusion that I won't. Wow. And I was like, wow. And,
what a badass response.
Yes. Like, and I was like, wow. And so I left, and long story short, obviously, I realized like, wow, I blew it. And came back, and I was like, please take me back. And it ended up working out.
How long was the breakup for?
Like 2 months. I mean,
oh wow,
yeah, no
that's
joke.
A pretty good amount of time.
It was. I knew it was funny because and I'm sorry this is getting around about.
No, this is great.
We had this. I got set up on a few blind dates during our breakup, and I remember going out with these girls, and I remember just sitting there thinking, the person I love is not you, and so a couple of these dates I ended short. I was like, I'm just gonna take you. I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm still kind of like reeling over this other woman. Some of them took it really well, and they were like, wow, that's really, and then other ones were like so pissed that I was taking it. But I remember I still talked to Ken's because this was my best friend. Yeah. And yet this romantic relationship was like, I seemingly sabotaged here, and when we broke up. And I remember talking to her, and she's like, yeah, my friend's, and I'm dying on the phone. I just wanted to be with her. And she said, my friend's setting me up with this guy. And I remember he was like a pilot or something. And I remember she said that, and I was like, I am going to murder him. And I didn't even know. He's probably a great guy, but in my mind, I'm like, the thought of her, entertaining, and not in a possessive way, just that like I love her. Was it jealousy? Absolutely, but I feel like it was the correct jealousy. It was an appropriate, healthy jealousy. Yeah. I was just like, no, like that's my wife. Yeah. That's my wife, right? Yeah. So anyway, we sorted it out. But that maturity level, I think, taught us later on, getting back to the question about navigating being in the industry, that people should make sure, we need to make sure that we're mature and that we don't confuse, some of this work that's with true intimacy. Because it's not. It's very different. Like, my wife is the only one who gets me intimately. Yeah. She's the only one that gets access to me intimately. Yeah. And emotionally and spiritually and on every other level. And we can go through the motions of playing a part, and I can hug and I can kiss and we can embrace another woman. In fact, I've done improv shows where a kiss wasn't even scripted, and I threw it in because it was right. It was it was right for the scene. Ken's was in the show watching from the audience, and I'm kissing this woman, and it wasn't even scripted. She's like, in her mind, she could easily be like, "You didn't have to do that. Why'd you kiss that woman?"
Right.
But it was right for the scene, and she's able to laugh through. At least I think. I don't know. She knows.
I think that if I ever said, Corbin, I don't want you to do that, I'm afraid that you wouldn't do that. You would respect what I wanted.
I would.
So you would stop doing those scenes or whatever. But that's not the type of person I want to be. Like, I'm not, I don't dictate what you do. And I wouldn't want to take that away from you. It's something you love. And I understand it's pretend.
It really is pretend. I think that's something that we talked about. And I remember when we first started dating, I was like, babe, I just wish you could just go do a scene so that you knew what it felt like.
I'll do one with you right now. Come here, buddy. We can do this.
How do we do this?
Which is actually really interesting because Emilio is now because he actually is a very talented actor as well, and actually is embarking on that. We'll probably have to actually do that, and we'll soon probably see that it's not, for anyone listening, intimacy scenes on film are so they are not real. They're not. So almost comedically funny.
On choreographed.
With their choreographs and how they are. And it doesn't feel anything and one of my favorite things when we were talking about it on set was you're I'm, kiss my on-set wife, but I go home to my real wife. I give all of myself to that person. I think that's the biggest difference. And again, it's about this, what we talk about on the show a lot is creating a space where each partner feels safe, seen, heard, and loved. And if you can create that, be super honest, super vulnerable. I remember when I've had to tell him some hard things, I was like, I feel terrified right now. I feel really scared to tell you this, but I know I'm not going to withhold the truth from you. And even that preface of communication, rather than. I just think communication is so profound, and I'm curious, in future questions we'll ask more about kind of communication stuff, but even if you're listening right now, if you feel scared to tell your partner something, tell them that you feel scared. How powerful it is, rather than, because if we don't say that, it could come across, we end up putting up defenses and we blame, and we rather than just saying, hey, I just feel scared right now. I feel terrified that you're not going to love me anymore, or that, or that if I tell you the full truth, and then it's this, it automatically sets this a more safe experience for everybody involved.
And
absolutely,
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's important too for any listener on either side of this, with your relationship, to know that you are justified and validated feeling exactly how you feel. You are not wrong if you're the partner of somebody in the film industry to be uncomfortable. You are not wrong, and it's incumbent upon both of you to understand the boundaries that you both feel comfortable with. And I have there's some boundaries I will not cross. There are things I will not ever do. Both for myself, but for my family, for my children. There's things and every actor should have that. Every person should have that in their life. This is the kind of my moral line. This is my where I draw the line. And you're not wrong for feeling uncomfortable. But I think so much can be gained through communication that you will find a place that both of you can exist and do what you love and be totally comfortable and confident with each other doing that thing. And you're right, babe. I wouldn't do. If there was something there but I wouldn't do it. I would honor you regardless, and I feel like I received that from her as well. And so some things, for the sake of storytelling, are there to enrich the story. But at the same time, I know my first and foremost, my obligation is to that person that I love and I'm committed to.
I love that you said that.
One of the things I want to just kind of add on this before we kind of move on is every one of you guys listening, right? We're all on our different journeys, collecting different puzzle pieces of the big puzzle piece, if you will. And I think, there are times where, you may be in a journey where you may make a mistake or may not have the mindset or groundedness, if you will, to be able to see that or feel that or have the vulnerable conversation or to see it and be okay with it. Maybe you flip out, maybe you have some anger and you let that out and all this kind of stuff. Like, we're going to all make mistakes and that's fine. But, so I think that's where kind of the ego comes into play that we were talking about. This ego-centered, I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough, or maybe I'm better than, or the ego being that sees separation and wants challenge, like all these kind of things. And the reason why I'm bringing this up again is I think, my ego side can choose. Like we always have a choice in anything that we do, right? So I think like at any point, whether it's you're in the entertainment industry in this situation or anything else, if you're in your head creating a story about something, it's a story about something.
Yeah, it's not actuality.
And it's not actuality. It's just a reality you're creating. And we do that constantly.
Yeah.
We're constantly in our heads creating these stories. And I think when we are vulnerable to say, hey, my ego side is saying this story, I don't know if it's true or not, but it is. And I think, and if you are creating these stories, it's okay. Like love yourself enough, like be compassionate against yourself. If you're starting to grow and evolve through this, it's okay. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get angry. You're going to maybe say something you don't want to say. You may have these jealousy stories or whatever it may be. So I wanted to kind of touch on that and say that it's okay, but also that we always have a choice. And also, let's say that maybe once or twice or 3 times, let's say Rachel, because let's say I may create a story and say, oh, you know what, babe, but statistics show, or a lot of A-list celebrities, they're whatever, and then they end up, getting married to this other person and breaking up with that person that they love because of the movie that they made together and whatever. Right. Media shows that. So I can choose to create a story and say, yeah, but statistics say differently. It's going to be like that. That's inevitable. That's going to happen, whatever. And here's the great beauty of this, in my opinion, is that may or may not happen. And in my world, in my reality, and what I choose to believe is that if it does, and I don't think this is the case with us because of what we've created and what we are, but if that were the case, the way I live is like letting whatever happens be okay. And what I mean by that is like the way to have a connection, and this is kind of the connection with the world, connection with God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, Jesus, is I choose, like, if that happens and if like a person in your life like fails you in a grand way, maybe over and over and over and over and over, then it's almost like a great filtration process, because you would want to be with somebody that does respect you, that would say, and there's going to be mistakes, but like there's a point where it's like, you know what? I shouldn't have done that, or I would never do that to you, whatever it is. I think if there's a person who does certain things, then maybe that's what the journey is, and you were meant for this other person that is going to be the person that you guys are expressing right now.
Well, and you can't control other people.
You can't control other people.
The biggest thing.
You only have control over yourself. So a circumstance is going to happen. Other people make choices.
Right.
The only thing you control is your response to that.
Exactly.
I love that, right? Like, he broke up with you and you just responded super honest and loving and kind, but like, but firm. Yeah, but so firm that it was that ultimately like changed the trajectory. And I love this because it'll get us into our next segment, which is called Renegade Moments. And Renegade Moments are this basically a breakthrough, or like a moment in time where you got to choose different. And like Emilio said, we have this tendency as human beings to create these stories that aren't actually what's happening. It's just like a future story we're creating in our head that's causing us a lot of emotional turmoil, even though it hasn't happened yet. But most of the time, if we create a story strong enough in our mind, we project it to happen anyways, right? Like if Emilio could have said, nope, this is the statistics, people in the entertainment industry break up. This is what I've decided is what it is. So I'm just that's my decision. And in that moment, he decided that that's what it is. He could have also chosen differently and chosen, which he did, to say, nope, I don't care what statistics say. This is different. We can make it work, Sure. And that's a choice to choose differently, right? That's like a renegade moment. And now we have this beautiful relationship because of that and several other reasons. So getting into that, I would love to know from you guys, and if you're listening too, like, think of a recent renegade moment that you had.
Well, before we go in, stay tuned, because we'll be talking about renegade moments.
We are going to take a break, so stay tuned. During the break, think about what your renegade moment is, and obviously, we always encourage people to share it on social media with this hashtag #RenegadeSo that we can find you and feature you and celebrate you on the show. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about our renegade moments. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm your host, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And this is Emilio Palafox.
And we are here with our special guests, the Corbin and McKenzie Allred. And we are talking about some fascinating things about communication, relationships, especially in the entertainment industry. And we are getting into our Renegade Moments segment of this show. Renegade moments are really breakthrough moments. Because being a renegade to us is really when you chose differently. You went against the grain. And so, a lot of times in life we can create these patterns where we keep choosing very similar things, therefore we keep getting similar experiences and responses. And renegade moments are really powerful because they're these moments in time when we chose differently. So, Corbin, starting with you, what's your renegade moment?
So, for many, I would assume that 2020 has been kind of a rough year. It's really unprecedented, some of the things going on. And even in my life personally, it's been one of the toughest years. Gone through some things with my extended family, and we've got fortunately she's healthy now, but we have a little girl with some special needs, and that's always kind of a roller coaster. And
what is that for people listening?
So my little girl, I've got an 8-year-old. I've got 4 kids. My 8-year-old has what's called spina bifida, specifically myelomeningocele spina bifida, which is it's when she was developing in utero, she was before we even knew we were pregnant, right? They think, they don't know for sure, but they think it's associated with a local folate deficiency in McKenzie, in my wife's body. Nothing that she had taken normal prenatals and eats a ton of clean, healthy food. Nothing we could ever anticipate or prevent. But when her little body was forming, one of the things that happens very early on is the spine itself kind of zippers around the spinal cord. And in spina bifida, specifically myelomeningocele spina bifida, which is the most severe form, that zippering of the spine around the spinal cord fails at some point, and it stops closing. And in fact, she was born with a portion of her spinal cord outside of her back. Now, the problem with that, when we found out we were 20 weeks pregnant.
20 weeks.
It was the same day we found out we were having a girl, was the same day that we found out something was wrong. And it was, I think our life will probably always be divided into the time before that moment and the time after that moment, because it really changed a lot of things, and since it changed our minds a lot and the way that we coped a lot, and it was a wonderful and devastating thing at the same time. You're celebrating in the same moment. You're celebrating this child that you're going to have. You're also mourning what you think is going to be the circumstances. And what really is, but you don't know what that is. You're terrified. So, and then it was crazy because she was born, and it was like, oh, it's just you. We're ready. Yeah. This is perfect, And she's the greatest thing, just like our other kids, greatest thing that ever happened to us. But she's paralyzed from the chest down, and has some other problems as well. But so, in answer to the question about this year, I think. I've had a lot of self-realization this year about myself, my insecurities, my anxieties, and some of just some things I've had to kind of navigate and deal with from my childhood and past. And I was actually talking to a friend, and I'm going to use this moment because it was a profound time. Sharon Prabhakar, who you know, who is Sharon Prabhakar is a dear friend of mine and yours, and we met again. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and we met again at a premiere of one of my films called Out of Liberty. And he was there, and we got to talking just outside the theater. It was this kind of unassuming location to kind of have this breakthrough moment. But we were talking, and I was sharing about kind of some of the things that had happened that year. My folks got divorced this year after 45 years of marriage or something like that. And just some really hard, challenging things that were happening with me, and so I was talking to him, and and kind of pouring my heart out. And Sharon just said something to me that, and I'll try to kind of paraphrase it, but basically what he told me is he said that he came to this realization that he wanted to share with me. And what it was that as human beings, and whether you have, you're religious or not, but for me, as a child of God, as a child of a creator, and as a human being, I cannot be more valuable than I am in this moment. There's nothing I can do to achieve being more valuable as a person. I've arrived. I'm there. There isn't a goal I can reach. There isn't some success I can have. There isn't an amount of money I can make. There isn't an award I can earn. Nothing can make me more valuable than I am now. And that was, for me, I was having a really hard time with self-worth, and I was having a hard time believing when people said that they loved me and cared about me. I was having a hard time believing that. Everything had a qualifier or something. It was like, I love you, but every time somebody said that, I love you, I heard, I love you if this, or I love you but this. And I always thought, well, that's something that they could take away. That's love was a conditional thing. And I this is something that I unfortunately was taught incorrectly. And I started to believe that the people around me, that it was a conditional affinity and affection that they had for me. And when Sharon told me this is something that he realized. It was this breakthrough aha moment for me that I went, holy cow, my whole life. And this goes back to what I was saying before with these accomplishments, these things that I've done and tried to be and learn and accomplish. And I said it was tiring, I'm always chasing this. Part of that was unhealthy. Part of it really was me feeling like I couldn't quit, because at any moment, if I stopped achieving something, I was going to lose the affection and the love of the people that mattered to me. They would think that I failed. And so I felt like my value was tied up in my accomplishments. And in this moment that he told me this, and he said, hey, you can't be any more like, sorry, I'm getting emotional. No. You can't be any more valuable than you are now. And once you learn that and like love yourself and realize that people love you, and they really do, and it doesn't matter what you are or what you achieve, then everything that you accomplish is just a gift to the world. You're just giving it, not because you have to do it, but because you can. You start to give with your talents, and now you're blessing the lives of the people that you love, instead of feeling like you're just trying to accomplish for yourself. You've already arrived. You're just trying to accomplish now so that you can give to other people. And that all of a sudden, it made everything I've done, medicine, where I spend my days just trying to help people on their worst day, whether it's performing and telling a story and making people feel emotion that they haven't felt, or maybe influence them in some way. In anything that I do, I realize I'm just giving of myself to make this world better if I can. If some small way my talents can bless the lives of others, then great. But I'm not doing it because I feel like I have to. I'm doing it because I can, because I'm already there. I'm already I'm already invaluable. God couldn't love me more than he does, and my wife can't love me more than she does, and my friends can't love me more than they do. And if that's true, then everything else is perfect.
Oh, gosh, I'm getting emotional. That's such a beautiful, that's such a powerful Renegade moment. And again, what I love so much that you said that, and we talk a lot about this, of the more we realize that, the more full we feel, the more that we start to realize, hey, we're so much more than we're not human doings. We're human beings. Just the presence of somebody is exactly that. It's a present, because somebody is present with you. Is so much more than, and I too have struggled with that. I was so driven by
we've talked about this,
versus just enjoyment of life, enjoyment of my relationships, and really when I found that too, I had the same sort of renegade breakthrough moment that I've talked about a lot, of just this this extreme you mean I don't have to do all these things to feel loved? I can just feel loved because I am.
That is exactly it. That is
it's so powerful. And so if you're listening right now and you've also struggled with that, I hope you take a big deep breath with us and kind of just even entertain the thought of letting that go, that you're amazing because you're here, you're a miracle because you're alive. And that alone is worthy and deserving of so much love.
And, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, brother, and for being vulnerable and sharing what a truly great, not only renegade moment, but a lot of principles and values of Relationship Renegades. One being, we talk about this loving yourself to find your other. And you guys are already in a beautiful relationship, but I think for people listening who are not in a relationship or maybe dating or thing, it's this thing of like, we think, I think a lot of people, and this may be woo-woo to somebody, but I think like loving yourself up or filling your cup up so that it runneth over. I think there's ways of like, you can achieve a whole bunch of stuff, but like be miserable or have this stuff going on. And then there's two different ways of living. And I think there could be, because, people want to like, people can chase something, but then like, at the cost of their health, at the cost of their family, at the cost of whatever it is. And then you could also achieve something, the same thing, while feeling peaceful, joyful, love, happiness, all this kind of stuff. Again, we have a choice. And I love that you brought up this big value of what we always talk about, loving yourself. And if you told me like, 6 years ago, do you love yourself, Emilio? I'd be like, yeah, of course I love myself. What the heck are you talking about? Like, but it's like, there's this really deeper thing of like really loving yourself. And I also too, like, I'm challenged sometimes with hearing people love me and not feeling like, not receiving that. And I've had similar kind of breakthroughs. And I think, there's still sometimes where it creeps back in, and I'm like having to like
like
really like
check in, right? Because I think we've gotten so good at learning patterns or unhealthy patterns that like we talk about this a lot, and like we're such like adaptable, like habit focused beings. Like we get in these habits, we create these patterns. And so I think if anybody has an unhealthy pattern, like congratulations, you've gotten so good at practicing that unhealthy pattern. It might take a second and a lot of compassion,
won't happen overnight,
and energy and work to create a new pattern, because especially if you've been doing it for like 20, 30, 40 years, So I think that's really important to remember, like compassion, self-compassion in the creation of new habits and patterns is a real thing.
I absolutely. And I think that one of the things that has helped me is this concept of truth and the perception of truth. Like truth is important, it's important individually, but within relationships, the perception of truth is more important than the actual truth. And what I mean by that is that when we can something can be true for us, but if our partner doesn't perceive it, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Truth is less important than the perception of truth.
Because, I love this topic.
Because if I love my wife, and I know I love her, but she doesn't perceive it in the way that it is real, then the truth doesn't matter at all, because the thing that matters is that she knows.
The perception.
And it's the same thing with ourselves. Like if I perceive what's actually true about myself and my own value, and I perceive what she really feels about me. So when she says, honey, I love you, you are my whole world, and I let that be the truth, and I just go, I believe you, and then everything, in every way we treat each other, that's validated, that's confirmed, then I actually am believing what's true between the two of us. And that to me is when then everything else fades away, and it's not so hard to try to sort out what's right, what's real or what's not. Right. It just is, and just is.
Yeah, I love that so much. Before we get too far into it, I want to hear Mackenzie's renegade moment.
Yeah, and I just want to say too, to conclude that, I think for me at least, is just I think if you love yourself, you'll be able, like, at least for me, like when I love myself, I can accept the love. And if I don't feel like I'm not loving myself, that's when I challenge. That's when it's hard for me to accept love,
Yeah.
And I guess it's for me, it could be different for everybody.
Yeah, and that's a deep topic that we'll definitely talk about on future episodes.
When I finally, I like the good and the bad or whatever, and I'm compassionate to myself, and I have this loving kindness towards myself, when I'm in those moments, that's where I find I can receive the love. And so I don't know if that's resonant with you guys or with anybody else, and maybe we can continue to bleed this through the rest of conversations. But let's definitely talk.
Let's get into your renegade moment. Again, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We are in our renegade moment segment, which is basically breakthrough moments, and Mackenzie's going to share hers.
Okay, well, I did think about this, and I had a couple different things that I was trying to decide what I wanted to talk about, but
and you probably have had many, but just like one that's
the
really
ones
powerful.
that I constantly am reminding myself every day is just that life is a journey and not a destination. And it's a quote you see often, but when you really think about it, it's not that it's just a destination. It's that you have to be able to find joy in every circumstance. So like this, take it back to the surfboard analogy.
Yes.
Like you can learn to ride the waves, but you want to be happy riding the waves. You know,
yes.
you want to enjoy that time, not just being able to manage, you know, balancing and or whatever. I've never actually surfed. But
no, but I think that's so true, and that's a powerful statement too, right? Because somebody could be riding a wave, but they could be so focused on like accomplishing it that they don't actually enjoy it. So continue on.
I think we are meant to, as beings, I believe that we are meant to have joy. It's not that we suffer through this life and then in the end we have some reward.
Right.
I think we are meant to feel joy in every moment.
Yes. I love that. Well, we talk about often this concept of every day we have a choice to create either a heaven-like state or a hell-like state. And it's more of like a state of being and a mindset. And that every day, like I could choose to be miserable. Like I could also choose to find joy in even the most challenging circumstances. And I'm curious for you in your renegade moment, what's helped you find enjoyment even when your kids are screaming?
Was there a time where was there a time where you didn't feel these things and then now you're really embodying that kind of message?
I think within a week I can go from like enjoying, you know, certain things about my kids, and then the next day they drive me crazy. You know, that same thing. But no, I don't know. I don't know.
Is that something just innately that you feel like you've been able to find enjoyment in life, or like is there something that you do, whether it's like gratitude for the moment or like something that helps you find, like if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I have kids too and they just are stressing me out and my husband's not paying attention to me and how am I supposed to find enjoyment right now in this challenging time? Like what's helped you most?
I think first and foremost I know how important it is to take care of myself. So like we talked about before, my addiction is fitness. And I know that I am a better person after I've, you know, run out of the house for an hour and done a run. And as selfish as I may feel for going away from my kids when they need me, or
it's you know, turning the TV. Really.
It is the most selfless thing.
Watch TV for an hour, I'll be back, or whatever it is. I know that I'm better for it. I know that I'm a happier mom. And it helps me to also, you know, I get away and I'm able to kind of digest events that have gone on. And I can come back and I think approach my kids and Corbin with just a fresher perspective.
Man, I couldn't agree more.
You've also had the most, I feel like in our life, you've had your most like breakthrough moments just when you've been out running, like when you have these times when you're at, you know, in a peaceful environment, which I don't get because you're running like 8-minute miles, like, you know, 20 miles, but yet you'll often come back and be like, hey, I had this thought, or this came to me, or it
happens to me a lot.
In fact, she came back from a run. Actually, we had 3 kids and we were like, oh, I think we're done. Yeah. She came back from a run and she was like, hey, I just had the most overwhelming impression that we're supposed to have another baby. And I was like, turns out I'm available. I will, I'm ready when you are. But I feel like that's like one of the things, and you said something that I think it sparked a thought that, you know, there's a statement that goes through life. I think we as people try to find meaning in everything. And a lot of times there's this statement that comes that's like everything happens for a reason, or meant to be. You know, you hear these things, and I think I used to kind of fall into that. And I'm not harping on anybody that says that, but I think what we've found in our life, as we've strived to make meaning or find meaning in the hardest things, I think what we've come to realize is that life happens, life kind of unfolds, and sometimes the meaning, I think, comes later. Like it's not that it was meant to be before it happened. It's that it happened, and then what happened turned you into something that was stronger or better, and the reason revealed itself. Yeah. But not that we're on a chessboard and we're being moved around by some higher power that has control over everything. I don't think that's the way it is. I think our choices dictate, you know, what happens in our life. and then the supposed to be comes much later. And that's kind of how we've looked at our challenges with life and with, with health and the health of people we love and our daughter and all those things that have come.
Yeah.
We were grappling with like, why did this happen? Why? And anybody out there that's going through something hard, you're gonna ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? I'm doing everything right. Why did this have to happen? And just remember, be patient and remember, weather the storm, and watch as you get stronger, and as you look back on this thing that I promise will pass, you will start to go, now it makes sense. The reason you won't know in the middle of it. You won't know.
Yeah.
And the reason may come later, and it will all depend on how you weather the storm. If you weather the storm, because you can quit. Yeah. You can try. You can one or the other. But
there's so many great things in there, and I just have to really say, especially, and thank you for sharing your renegade moment, McKenzie, because I think especially for both men and women, but I know we're both women here, and I share that same thing. Like, I am a better human, a better person, a better partner when I go out and I move. And I think for everybody to decide what those things are for them and own them and talk about them and make sure that your partner knows so that you can support each other. Of like, I tell him all the time, I'm like, babe, hold me accountable that I need to go move in the morning because I will be better. Like, don't let me start getting into other things or like, and I think, so if you're listening right now, it is like those times of taking those selfish moments, AKA are some of the most selfless, end up being very selfless because you are such a better human for everybody else.
And there's been days when Corbin has sent me out on he knows more than I do what I need.
But take care of yourself.
Why don't you just go get out of the house?
We have to just get out and move. I think that's so awesome.
So many golden nuggets, guys. If you guys are just tuning in to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, some true golden nuggets on just life and relationships and communication and the entertainment industry. Feel free to like, subscribe, share if you guys have been listening to this so we can help impact more people to have relationships become the new norm so that we can focus healthy more on that and can expand more on that, healthy relationships. And so before we go to our next bit of favorite finds, we just want to thank you guys for your presence, your energy, and your raw and realness and your vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And so stay tuned for some favorite.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We're going to be talking about our favorite finds, whether it's books, audios, podcasts, technologies, anything that helps create a world where healthy relationships really can be the new norm. Welcome back to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We are getting into our last and final segment. This is starting off with our favorite finds. So this could be anything from favorite books, favorite podcasts, audios, a poem, a travel spot. We love just sharing favorite things that we find. So Corbin, we'll start with you. What's a favorite find?
So this happened yesterday. I had a friend that told a story, and I went and looked up this statue. So my friend told me the story that he was in Florence. His name's J.T. Taylor. He's one of my best friends. He was actually a professor when I was an undergrad, and he spoke yesterday at a baptismal meeting. And he told me the story. He told the story to everybody there, and he said that he was in Florence and he'd been like wanting to see the David his entire life. And so he was in Florence and he was like walking down this corridor and there was the statue of David. And he was like, it was one of the most perfect, beautiful things he's ever seen, just massive and perfect. But he's like, that's not the statue that like impressed upon him the most. He actually looked to the side and he saw this statue called the Slave of Atlas. And what have you seen this statue?
No.
I encourage everybody to look it up. The Slave of Atlas. And the Slave of Atlas is a Michelangelo that is unfinished. And it's basically this chiseled, perfect kind of man, but he's only half revealed in this giant block of stone.
Oh, whoa.
And what he got very emotional when he told his story, and I could see why, because I related so much with it. He said, I feel a whole lot more like this Slave of Atlas than I do this perfect David. He's like, I feel like that's me. Like, the statue looks like that the Slave of Atlas was always inside that rock. But that it just has to be hammered away and revealed in order for it to be perfect. And he was like, this is how I feel in life. Like I'm not this perfect statue.
Yeah.
I'm this stone that's very rough and jagged.
Yeah.
And I'm getting hammered piece by piece by my experiences, by my relationships. And hopefully I feel like I'm this perfect thing that's trapped inside an imperfect shell that's just getting
chiseled away.
Getting chiseled away on, and eventually I'm going to be revealed. But right now we're all trapped inside this imperfect shell that we reside in, and hopefully we're doing things and building relationships and cultivating habits that will allow us to break free of that shell and end up being this hopefully perfect thing.
Oh, that's so cool. One of my favorite quotes actually is called, you are perfectly imperfect right now and deserving of love right now. So you're perfectly imperfect and deserving of love right now. No matter your past, no matter your circumstances, no matter anything. It's just you are a human being and you're a walking miracle.
Yep.
So
And I love that you said that too, because it's almost like as we start to slowly wrap up the show, this idea of coming home. And what I mean by coming home is kind of what you were talking about, like coming back to that perfect David after you've chiseled away and seen what that is. And really, it's this idea, and what we choose to kind of believe in the way that we see the world is this: we feel like right when we're born, we are that perfect David, if you will. And I feel like the way that we believe is, everything that we've been programmed and everything that we've experienced is what, right, like encapsulates that shell, like all the character, and then we end up building these characters consciously or subconsciously, which is that armor, that shell, that thing that, and then it's sad that we have to come into this world so perfect, so beautiful, everything, and then we tend to then add upon all the shell, all the walls, all the characters, and then have to do the work throughout this life. And maybe it's a beautiful thing.
It's
beautiful.
It's
so then chisel that away and remove all these characters.
So true.
It's the unbecoming.
Yeah, it's the unbecoming, right?
Yeah.
Just get back to being children, because children are awesome.
Taking off what the world's put on.
To be back where you always were.
Yes.
Where you always were. So I appreciate sharing that, and I love that visual.
I love that. It's so
look
cool.
it up. It's so.
I was there when John talked about that, and I was so deeply affected by that as well.
That is so cool.
Just really cool.
Well, and what about you? What's a recent favorite find that you've had, or is that your recent favorite
well,
find?
I love that too. I wish I could. Can I say that too?
Yeah.
No, we need a new one.
I stole it. You let me go first. You would have done it.
No, I don't know that I can top that. But one thing I've really loved lately is the what's that little massage hammer thing?
Oh, like the
massage gun,
or like
the massage
gun. Those are great, actually.
Yeah, I've loved that.
And so we actually had that on set of the movie that we were just working on.
Casey brought one.
And it's incredible.
Nice.
Those little self-love things are huge.
Yeah.
They're so powerful. So if you haven't used one of those before, definitely something.
Are you always using one of those, or do you get?
Yes,
I do. Yeah. Corbin got me one, and
especially as an athlete, if you love moving, you also need some of that.
I'm not getting any younger.
Come on now.
Yeah, come on.
My muscles need a little bit more love to recover. It's not quite like it.
Well, I am so excited about this,
fun.
and I've loved having you guys. We've loved having you guys on the show, and I would love to wrap up the show with this final kind of question. And to anyone listening right now, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, and we are having our special guest right now of Corbin and McKenzie Allred. And Corbin is actually we played husband and wife in this movie that we just finished called Alien Country, which is super cool. But you guys have a really awesome relationship, as well as you are parents of 4 beautiful children. One of what we talked about had special needs. If you guys could go back in time and give advice to your younger selves that were just about to be parents, what would that advice be?
I would just say that it is so wonderful and so hard, and just don't try to look too far ahead. Take it a step at a time. And just find joy in all those little hard things, and also know that you can't control, everything about this other little person that has come into the world.
That's huge.
Love that.
That's super huge.
Love that.
I would say, I think we as parents, we often try to train our kids out of being kids, because it's much more convenient to us to have little mature adults running around that can take care of themselves. Yeah. So a lot of times we're saying, you know, we're killing curiosity with our kids because they want to experience things, and we're like, no, because we already know. Yeah. But I mean, obviously keep your kids safe. Yeah. But at the same time, like, let them be kids. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that we committed to very early on, you know, when we were told, especially with our third child, Lily, who has spina bifida, you know, when we were pregnant with her, we weren't sure she was even going to survive till she was born. And, you know, they counseled us it was pretty harsh counsel about, you know, what we could expect and how taxing it would be on our relationship and all these things. And we just committed in that moment because we're such active people and we love doing things to stay active. We committed in that moment that it didn't matter what came or what challenges could come to any of our kids, we would never stop adventuring. We would never stop doing the things that were fun, that were hard. And just because things were harder, and it's harder. It's much harder for us to do the things that we love to do outside. But at the same time, I feel like the things that we do because they're harder are so much more rewarding. And so we just never stop doing fun things as a family.
No. And now that child, Lily, who's now 8, she is like our most outdoor loving kid. I mean, she's like, let's go hiking. I'm like, well, we know what that entails us carrying.
And that hiking means her being on your back.
That's on my back, yeah. So, and that was, I think that's been a big thing for us too with our health and fitness. I'll touch on that, is that you never know, you know, for anybody out there who's got a child with special needs, or who, you know, for any reason, you never know when your body is going to be the thing that someone else needs. We look so much at appearances, but function, staying healthy, is not to look good. It's not because it looks good. It's because we're doing our best to make things work good. And
love that.
And so I realized, you know, as with Lily, as she's getting bigger and her equipment's getting heavier, I was like, man, my body is proxy for her all the time. Yeah. Like, she's a little mind that rides on this body that's mine. And I realize, and Ken's does the same thing, is we realize we have to be strong. We have to be fit. And so when she experiences the world, so much of her experience is on our back, or we're pushing her, or we're carrying her. And that's how she experiences the world. And we don't want her to have an inability to experience the world just like every other kid. It just means that we gotta like muscle up and help her experience it. And so, man, if we ever come hiking with us, we're throwing her on your back. And I'm telling you, the kid, she does not stop talking. No. It's like,
so good.
And she just, it's fun because it's like she thinks she's just riding on a tireless animal. And so she'll be like, let's go up there, let's do that. And it's like, all right, let's do it. But it keeps you young.
Wow. Yes. What a powerful share.
Stay healthy.
Thank you so much for doing that. I think especially, you know, speaking to you know, myself being a woman and an actress model, something that's helped me that goes right along with that a lot with body image issues, which is I think something that a lot of people struggle with, not just women, but a lot of people. Whole other segment. But I think if you could take away one thing that really helps with that is the appreciation for what your body can do versus what it looks like is so life-changing. You know, the moment I started just having deep appreciation and gratitude for all the cool things that my body could do. You know, there's just this like earth suit that I get to like experience the world in, and like imagining if I didn't have it, you know, like where would you, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? Like just, and so I think if anybody is struggling with that right now, you know, in their own personal relationships, I think that statement alone is so profound. And then also thinking about people who don't have that same gift and how you can like take care of yourself so that you can go help them, you know, like I think that's so cool, guys. So man, thank you so much for being here.
This has been such a pleasure. Thank you guys for showing up and playing fully with us, but also playing fully in your life, in your relationships, and how you show up for your family. I think that's so important, especially in the unprecedented time that we are. We can choose so many things. We can choose so many ways of being. and the fact that you guys are choosing to have fun, be more connected, live fully alive relationships in all the ways that you guys have talked about on the show. We're just truly thankful that you guys have chosen that, and so thank you for
and that you embody it, and that you're such great examples. It's so much to talk about something, but you guys truly embody all of this stuff, which is so cool. I think embodiment is where it's at. People can talk all day long about how to do things, but it's really we want to learn from people who are living it. So thank you guys for being such inspirations to us as we really are at the beginning of our journey together. So
absolutely,
it's so cool. So if you're listening right now, you're listening to and have been listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We also we will love to hear from you guys. So definitely send in questions. Please share this episode with anyone you think might need to hear it. So much gold within this episode. That's right. Kind of incredible.
You can find Fun for Life Radio on all social media platforms at Fun for Life Radio. Actually, scratch that. I don't know why I said that. At FFLV Media. And then at Dash as well. And then if you want to find more stuff on what we're doing, you can check out our Facebook private group, which is Relationship Renegades Tribe. That's where you guys can answer all the questions. That's where we have a tight community. And then we'll be able to answer a lot of these questions on the show if you like.
Yep.
So go check it out.
Yeah, and again, that Facebook tribe is a private tribe. We'd love to have you guys in there too. It's a private free group where we all just share tips and tricks and different advice. We support each other. We help each other out, especially because relationships can be challenging sometimes. And so that support group is super important. So again, Relationship Renegades Tribe on Facebook, and all our accounts are just Relationship Renegades across the board. If you look us up on social media, we're there. We can't wait to hear to have another episode as well. So stay tuned. We're on every week on Fun for Life Radio.
Absolutely. And also, just before we leave, Corbin, McKenzie, how can people find you guys? What are you guys up to? Are there some places that we could send people your way?
Yeah.
As far as social media, I'm only on there with a private account, but you can always contact Corbin through his public actor pages.
Yeah, I've got the Corbin Allred on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok
yet. Not
I'm not anymore, so the Corbin Allred on Instagram. I also have Corbin Allred Official on Instagram, which focuses a little bit more on just my film career. You can Corbin Allred on Facebook. And honestly, I'm going to join the Relationship Renegades team, tribe, I guess. Yeah. And if people have any questions specifically about this episode or something like that, I'm sure if you post them up, we can try to answer them and connect with you.
We're here to help and serve. Again, the best things to do is just the Relationship Renegades Tribe on Facebook, and or just if you post anything and you want us to see it, tag us and or use the hashtag Relationship Renegades. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Awesome. Stay tuned for the next episode, as well as the movie that Corbin and
Alien
I are
Country.
in. Alien Country. It is such a fun action comedy movie.
It looks fantastic.
We cannot wait for you guys to see it. So stay tuned. We will see you next time. Again, you've been listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio.